Hey there, YouTube family. Dr. K here, back for another video. Happy Saturday. I am excited to talk to you today because I have a lot to share. So I am going to apologize in advance if I start rambling, but yeah, I got some stuff to get off my chest. So if you're new to this channel, we talk all things winning in education. That's what this channel is all about. So whatever your definition of winning will be, whether you're new to the education game and you're a brand new teacher and trying to figure out how to make it win for you, or you're in education thinking about moving up out of the classroom into teacher leadership, you want to become a principal, or perhaps even moving into higher education or leaving higher education, which is what I've done recently. So we talk all things winning education on this channel, and today we're going to follow up on my most recent video where I talked about, hey guys, I have left my higher education professor gig. I got a lot of comments from you guys, so thank you. Thank you for the nice comments. I got personal emails from people that I have yet to respond to. It's coming, guys. I got a lot of emails, and it was just overwhelming and humbling to have so many people wishing me well and commending me on my choice. But you know, whenever you get those good emails or those good comments, you have people in the background kind of whispering in your ear negativity. So to be honest, the negativity didn't really come from my YouTube family. It came from other people in my circle. So that's what we're talking about today. The title of this video is going to be something like, don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. And why do I say that? So I got some comments from some of my professor friends who probably were meaning well by these comments, but kind of hit my ear in the wrong way. So one of the comments was, oh my gosh, you're going back into K-12 as an assistant principal. Like, that's a downgrade. Like, why are you doing it? It's a backward step in your career. It's not as prestigious as you know, working in higher education, being a professor and all of that. So those were the types of comments, and I made some notes so I can kind of try to stay on track. Yeah, the comments were weird, like from these people. So I listened because, you know, I was a bit taken aback. I am not one of those people who kind of listens to what people has to say and then rethink or regret their decisions. I kind of weighed the pros and cons for me and did what made sense for me. But this idea came up again today. I had a coaching call with a young lady who is also in higher eds, and she and I had kind of talked. We've known each other in certain circles on in social media, and we've been talking about this higher ed gig is not all it's cracked up to be. And I guess my most recent video about me leaving kind of struck a nerve with her, and she decided to have a coaching call with me to talk about my decision. And part of her hesitation was really around this idea of keeping up with the Joneses, right? What are other people going to think about me if I leave this? And she's an associate professor. I was an assistant professor, so she had gone to the next level. And she talked about all of the work she had put in, but still felt like she was on that hamster wheel, not making any more money. She was actually making less money than I had made in higher ed. So we kind of went back and forth, and I got in my mind what was holding her back. And I came up with some ideas that maybe lifted her thinking or opened her mind about my decision, because that's what we talked about in her coaching call. Those were her questions. What led me to my decision? So I kind of took her through my pros and cons process. And people who know me know I am a list maker. I make lists for everything. So I made a list, as I have done in all of my job changes over the years, whether I'm moving abroad or whatever. I'm always making a list and putting down the pros and cons. So I did that in this decision. And then I talked through my pros and cons with her, because everyone's pros and cons are going to be different. My pros and cons were I felt like I was doing a whole heck of a lot of work and not getting paid for that work. And I remember telling her that one of the reasons I went into higher education is not because obviously you don't want to work, you got to work, right? But in my mind, I was in K-12, it was very stressful. I figured I would go into higher ed and kind of get on the more administrative side, start working directly with teachers, new teachers in training, teacher leaders, and eventually where I ended up for the last 5, 6 years working with aspiring principals, which was my dream job. So even with all of that, I said, this is my dream job. This is where I wanted to be. But once you get into these things, you kind of start taking down the layers, right? You can get to look behind the curtain. You get to look behind like that Wizard of Oz curtain. You get to see the inner working. So I kind of saw that although K-12 was stressful, I was making a whole heck a lot more money for my amount of work and output that I was doing. I was, in my thinking, going into higher ed, took a huge pay cut, but I felt like it would be offset by the amount of stress and the amount of work. I could concentrate on, things I wanted to do, research, and concentrate on the types of things I wanted to do, the type of courses I wanted to teach. None of that came true. So what I found after working in higher ed, and I was sharing that with my coachee today, is that I was doing the same amount of work, if not more, in higher ed. My stress level was probably not at a 10 at all, but the amount of work, my output of work, that required me to kind of keep up with my assistant professor gig and, on that track to tenureship. And if you don't know what that is, I have tons of videos on this channel talking about what that is all about. But that whole idea of you got to get tenure and you're on that track was a bit stressful, not quite as stressful as my K-12 gig. But when I looked at my output, right, and the amount of money that I was making, it just didn't match up. So no matter how I tried to make it work in my mind, it did not. So this is what we talked about today in my coaching call, and I was very transparent with her. I don't have any kids to take care of. She has a daughter, a young daughter actually, still in elementary school. And, she has things she has to think about. I'm a little bit more mobile, flexible, in which that I can decide, okay, I'm leaving this job, I'm going to go do something else. And if I fail, I fail. I'm just ruining my life. I'm not ruining my child's life or messing up money coming into the family. So, we had all of those conversations, but I could hear in the back of her mind, even though she didn't voice it, her opposition in this call was all about, it's a downgrade. What are people going to think about me if I go back in this position, and how is it going to look? It's just, it's not as prestigious. And I'm thinking, like, I just don't get it. I do not feel that way. Who cares about prestige in a job when the job is trying to bleed you dry and they're not paying you? But again, this is my personal feelings towards that. And no matter how I tried to change her mindset and thinking around, forget about keeping up with the Joneses. This is about your personal quality of life. For me, it was about my output, what's required of me to work, because I know I have to work. I'm not independently wealthy. I haven't hit the lotto yet, obviously, so I got to work. But in the I have to work, what is my output versus the amount of money I'm receiving for that work? That means a lot to me. I want to be paid fairly for the work. I don't mind working, but I do have an issue with feeling like I'm being taken advantage of. And that's how I felt these last couple of years in higher ed. So I told her I left. And I actually said, had I not found this gig, this assistant principal job because I didn't want to go right back, as I said in my previous video, right back into the principalship. I'm sure I'll end up there in about a year or two, but okay. Right now, for me, this feels like a soft landing. I can kind of reacclimate my brain to K-12 thinking, get my feet wet back into that whole space, but it's not about it. For me, it doesn't feel like a demotion. When I look on paper, and I was looking up my boss and my boss's boss, their salary, because, I could check that. And I will be making more than my boss's boss. Look, how is this a demotion? So for me, no, I would have gone back in the classroom to be a second grade teacher had it allowed me to have the type of life that I wanted at the quality and level that I wanted, right? Because to me, it's about quality of life. It's about you having the type of life you want without you having to feel like you need to perform constantly for your supper. And that's how I started to feel in higher education. Now, is this gig that I'm going into going to be perfect? Of course not. No job for me is ever going to be perfect. My perfect job is I've hit the lotto and I'm never working. I'm traveling around the world. Until that happens, there are some changes. There are some trade-offs that you as an individual, you have to kind of think through. So this is where we left that conversation. This is coaching session number 1. She did schedule another one, and I gave her a couple of weeks to kind of go through some things. I had her do her pros and cons list. I had her write out why she feels like she has to have a prestigious title and job behind her to make her feel like she's worthy. Because I don't really understand it. I could be a second grade teacher. It doesn't matter. Who cares? So what? I have my doctorate. Teachers work hard. I could be a second grade teacher and I would be a darn good second grade teacher, particularly if I'm making more money. I'm having my summers off. I'm going to be able to still travel. Who cares if people say, oh my God, you used to be a professor and now you're a second grade. Who cares what people think about you? So I tried to get her where I am. I've never really cared about what people thought about me. So I'm a little different. But I felt like this is really holding her up. And I wanted to come on and talk to you about that. Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. So if you're a teacher and you decide I want to go and work over at Costco, because remember I had a video on my channel that I'll link somewhere here. That's what you decide to do. You weighed the pros and cons financially, emotionally, thinking about your family and quality of life, and you figured out this Costco job is going to get me closer to where I want to be overall. Forget about the title. Like, it's not about the title. It is about you and your quality of life. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. So the other thing I want you guys to be thinking about, as it's almost August 1st, and the teachers on this channel, I know you're starting to think about back to school and how you're going to make it through. Start thinking about, okay, I'm going to stay in education, and here's what I'm going to do to improve my circumstances if they're not ideal. What can I do? What's one little thing I can do to improve it? Maybe it's, as we talked about before, moving schools, moving grades, moving districts, or leaving altogether. Whatever it is, you have to decide what you're going to do for you and not for anybody else. You don't have to perform. Your job is not you. Your title is not you. I certainly do not feel that way, and neither should you. So I also wanted to say, if you are interested in meeting with me for a coaching session, I'm available. I'm going to link all of my information again, as I do on each video. I do one-on-one calls. I've been doing them now for a while. I really enjoy kind of talking about my life. I've done several jobs. So I started in corporate America and human resources. And then I decided to pivot and go into K-12 education, and I did classroom teacher. I was a teacher leader. I was a literacy coach. I was a district literacy coach. I was a principal. And then I decided to pivot, and I went to higher education, and I was an assistant professor for teachers, teacher leaders, and future school principals. And now I'm pivoting again. and I'm going back into K-12. So if you're one of those people who are scared of change, oh my gosh, what is this going to mean for my career? Make an appointment with me. I can get you through that hump. I am not the type of person that is attached to my job or my job title. I do not listen to the critics when they say, oh my gosh, you're leaving higher education and it's going to be fatal for your career. It's terrible. It's going to be the worst decision. Who cares? If it's a bad decision, then I'll pivot again. I have a background that will allow me to pivot any way I need to at any time. So I am not afraid of change. Remember, I worked out of the country. I went by myself. I knew no one. And I lived in the Middle East for a couple of years by myself. So I'm used to change and doing things on my own. But I realize that this is not the comfort level of most people. So if you are listening to this video and you feel like, you know what, I do want to do something different, and I do think I need a little pep talk from Dr. K about what it will mean, how to do it, how to break through my mindset of fear and this idea that I have to keep up with the Joneses and my title defines my worth. If you need any of that sort of breakthrough conversation, I implore you to schedule an appointment with me. I will get you over the hump. Okay, guys, that is it for now. I just wanted to come on here and rant and say I'm happy. I start my new job on Monday. I know I was talking about maybe I won't do this channel, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm maybe going to try to make it a little bit more positive so I don't end up on CNN as some of those teachers have done, but I'm going to keep it open. I like our interactions, and if these comments and emails I've gotten over the last week and a half congratulating me or any indication, I am resonating with you. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate your kind words, and I will keep you posted. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one.